Okay, sorry this video is delayed. This slightly delayed. I had problems uploading it for some reason, so I'm re-recording it and then I'm gonna upload it again. Um, Today, or this year marks we're coming up on the second or third anniversary of COVID-19, and so we're entering our third year going into this worldwide pandemic. Around this time, President Trump in 2020 declared state of emergency and restricted travel from China to and from China, where the virus originated, and also from other affected countries like Italy and others. Um, so there were lockdowns worldwide, um, social distancing. People had to keep 6 feet away from each other for fear of spreading the virus because it was very contagious. And I'm going to go into the mask and vaccine mandates later on in the video. Um, but that is, as most people know, a source of controversy and debate right now. But in 2020, when the virus first started, lockdowns, people protested the lockdowns. Um, but a lot of this was necessary because we didn't know anything about COVID-19, other than it originated in Wuhan, China, from a wet market from an infected bat, and it was spreading really quickly all over the world. And so we need to take as many safety precautions and mitigations as we possibly could, since we didn't know much about the virus, to stop the spread. And these were part of the mitigations. So around the beginning of the pandemic, people were having problems getting out PPE, personal protection equipment, especially for healthcare workers. The masks, the gloves, the goggles, all of that was in short supply. So if anybody remembers, President Trump, he signed an executive order. I think it was called the Defense Production Act, where he manufactured millions of personal protection equipment for these healthcare workers and also for just the general public so people could protect themselves. Um, so, yeah, that's when masks became more widely available, gloves, goggles, that sort of thing. Some things were still in high supply, but in high demand, but in low supply, like hand sanitizer. But the face masks, they were supposed to protect against the uh, water droplets that comes from coughing and sneezing that pass the virus on more quickly. So there's debate right now going on, like which mask is more protective and has like N95 mask. They're saying is more effective against the virus. Um, but right now there's a debate going on against whether people should still be wearing face masks going a third year into the virus, since the vaccine is now available. Um, so before I get into anything else, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. In this video, I'm going to be talking about. I went into mostly like what's been going on, even though like most people know what's been going on these past almost 3 years. But just for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna like summarize what's been going on with COVID-19. I'm also gonna be talking about why I believe COVID-19 is happening right now, and what I'm what my stance as as a mayoral candidate, what my stance on it, the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates, and how I'm going to address it going forward if I'm elected Chicago mayor. So that's all going to be in this video. So probably be another lengthy video. I try not to make it too long, but there's going to be a lot to be mentioned in this video because, like I said, this video is kind of long overdue. The virus is going on its third year, so there's just a lot to talk about. Some of the main concerns with the virus has been the variants. The virus has been mutating a lot since 2020. So the most recent variants have been Omicron and the Delta variants, which are highly contagious. And so that's what city officials have been using to say that we need to keep the masks on indoors and in public transportation, and that also for saying that because of these variants, they use it to push the vaccine also. And so, yeah, as everybody knows, or mostly everybody knows, COVID-19 affects the lungs mostly. It damages the lungs. It has symptoms similar to the flu, like fever, headache, nausea, the chills, coughing, sneezing. There's also some other new symptoms like loss of smell, um, and taste, and other symptoms. So yeah, they're saying that these the vaccine will make the symptoms milder if people get it. If you take the first dose and the second dose and the booster, then you're considered fully vaccinated, protected against the virus, and therefore your symptoms, if you do have an outbreak case, which is if you catch the virus again after you're vaccinated, these symptoms will be more milder. And also your face mask, it'll against getting the virus and hence experiencing these symptoms. Um, what else? Okay. Um, oh, sorry. Like I said, there's a lot to get through, so just trying to get myself sorted out. Um, but people are saying that this could have been started as early as 2019, and there have been a lot of controversies about this virus, and I'm not going to get into that for this video. Um, because it's just the virus is real. People are catching it. I know people that have had the virus. It's very real, and like I said, I'm going to get into why I believe it's happening. But COVID-19, it wasn't. I mean, you people are saying it was manufactured in a lab, is used as a biological weapon against other countries, and that, or people are saying like it's just a made up political. It's just made to it's just like this made up virus to politicize and to like use as a political weapon to control people and create fear and all that, all this misinformation and um, fear mongering and controversy. So I'm not going to get into that. It's not important and none of it is true. I'm not going to debunk it or anything because I'm focusing on the vaccine and the mask mandates, which is more important. So now I'm going into why I believe this is happening. As I mentioned before, I am a Christian and I take a spiritual perspective with issues like these. And so I believe this is happening because the Bible in the book of Revelations does talk about the signs that are going to be used as a warning to us of when, before Jesus comes back second time to earth and he collects his people in the rapture. And these signs are supposed to be God's judgment on the earth. So there's going to be a lot of things happening at once: earthquakes, a lot of deaths, war, famine, uh, natural disasters, and pestilences like COVID-19. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of others that may be even worse than COVID-19. But COVID-19 is, I believe, is one of the pestilences that is being used as God's judgment on the earth before Jesus returns. So are we in the last days? Uh, I believe we are. I believe the signs are getting like more noticeable and stronger that Jesus is returning soon. Like the Bible says, nobody knows when he's going to come, but I believe the signs are getting there and more frequent. And I believe COVID-19, this worldwide pandemic, is definitely one of those signs. So I do believe COVID-19 is one of God's judgments as a pestilence. uh, as one of God's judgments on the earth against for our sin. And so, in the beginning of the pandemic, um, there was a group of Christians who were holding like a day of repentance, and that's good, but it needs to be happening a lot more frequently because as time goes on, things are going to get worse. We need to be those of us who are Christians, we need to be repenting, and those who are not Christians, you really need to start reconsidering your choice and really seriously think about becoming saved because we don't have. I don't believe. Well, time is running out. Time is not on our side right now. So yeah. Uh, so recently in the news, there have been um, there was a there was a decision by our Illinois appellate court, which is our highest court in the state, that said they're giving in response to this whole mask mandate debate is that they're giving the school districts the choice of whether students should wear masks in class or in school, or whether they shouldn't. They're giving the school that discretion, that option. Um, so they're not saying yes or no. Basically, they're just I don't know if you could. I don't know if you could say the courts are taking a neutral stance. I guess they are. They're handing that choice over to the schools. So I think that's fair. We need to keep, if we're going to completely eliminate the mask mandate and all these other COVID-19 regulations, we need to really consider, like, I'm not sure if we've reached herd immunity in the country yet, but I know we need to look at how many people have been vaccinated total in the state and in Chicago. And are the deaths declining? Are the cases declining? Infections, hospitalizations, things like that. We need to consider that before we start just saying, okay, no more masks and this and that. Um, because if the mask mandates are still in place, I can understand why. I forgot to mention B2. I think is another variant that's out right now. It's not being mentioned that much. It was mentioned once or twice in the news, either this month or last month. So all these new variants coming out, we gotta take that into consideration. And but our Illinois appellate court did rule that they're letting schools decide for the mask mandate. And like I said, I think that's a fair um, decision. And so now, what I believe is that teachers and all these teachers that are going on strike, all these students that are walking out of class, protesting, all of them need to go back to school because at the beginning of the semester, um, when this work stoppage was happening with uh, CPS teachers, and there was this big fight between the Chicago Teachers Union and the CPS, and then the mayor got involved. And meanwhile, thousands of students were out of class. And one thing that Lightfoot did, which I really didn't agree with, like a lot of other things she does that I don't agree with, is that she actually um, she um, she like she stopped she disrupted remote learning because she wanted in-person learning. So she locked teachers out of their online accounts so they couldn't do remote instruction. And I think that was a really bad move because if students aren't in class in person, they should be getting some kind of instruction. This whole work stoppage lasted a whole week, and students could get like fall behind a whole week of no instruction. That's really bad. So they could have had some instruction until CTU and the mayor and CPS sorted everything out. Um, but Lightfoot didn't do that, and she threatened teachers that they wouldn't get paid. if they didn't go back to class, and some other legal stuff, some other lawsuits were happening. So there were some negotiations happening that weekend, and um, then after a week, kids were back in class in person. And the negotiation, the deal, I can't remember all the details, but it pretty much, there was like this compromise where, okay, if students go back, then there needs to be more testing, more safety precautions to keep the teachers safe, because the teachers were concerned about going back and there wasn't enough testing and all these variants out. And so they wanted their safety to be taken more seriously. So they didn't, they weren't getting sick. Uh, so yeah, and then so the deal said they would be working on testing. I think it said the testing would be optional for students. I don't remember, but they did say like if there was an outbreak, uh, I think it would be up to the individual school whether or not they would go to remote learning. So like a school by school basis. Not all of the schools would shut down. But yeah, that's sort of how the deal went, and everybody's back in school. But now with the mask mandate, students and teachers have been leaving class and protesting and striking against that. So that's why I said the Illinois appellate court decided it was up to the schools. So I'm not sure if everybody's returned back to class. I hope they are, since that decision's been made, but I'm not sure. But that's the latest update on what's been going on with these mask mandates. And as for the rest of us, I'm not sure. Governor Pritzker, he said something like February 28th, like the end of this month, we won't be allowed to wear masks. I mean, we won't. It'll be a choice. We won't be like forced to wear the mask. Well, we'll see. I'm just focused on what's going on with our schools right now. So, what else? Okay, so yeah, so President Sharkey, he's the president for Chicago Teachers Union. He recently announced that he wouldn't be running for reelection. That he, in June, he's not going to be running for reelection in June when he's done with his position. And so CTU is trying to find someone to take his place. And I don't have much hope that they're going to select somebody who's more competent than Sharkey. Yeah, Sharkey. I don't want to mispronounce his name. But he said he's been with CTU for 20 years, and for 20 years, there's been like little to no change with CPS. During this work stoppage at the beginning of the year, parents were starting to pull their students out of CPS. So I don't think there's been much positive change there, and that's really sad considering you've been the president of this union for 20 years, and no changes have been made to our Chicago public school system, which is very broken even to this day. So somebody more competent needs to replace President Sharkey, but like I said, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. So that's also something that's been happening. Uh, all right, now I'm going to be talking about what I plan on doing, my stance on everything that's been going on with COVID-19, specifically the mask and vaccine mandates, especially the vaccine mandates, which are also a source of debate right now. I believe it should be a personal choice, especially with the vaccines. This is something that you're putting into your body. It should be, no matter what the deaths are, no matter what the cases, how high the cases are, it should be a personal choice. And until people get the vaccine, if private businesses decide, hey, we don't want you coming into our restaurant, our theater, wherever without, or our store without a vaccine, that should be up to the business because they're trying to protect their employees and their other customers who are vaccinated um, against infection. That's up to them. Now, the problem I believe, and the problem that I would really have, is if they started going too far and started like violating our constitutional rights, saying that, hey, if you don't come in with a vaccine, if you're not vaccinated and you want to shop at the grocery store and get food, and um, if you want, like, if you're not being allowed to even take care of your basic needs, then that's when I believe it becomes a problem. And luckily, it doesn't seem like we're going to be crossing that point because the U.S. Supreme Court um, just ruled against Biden's mandatory vaccine mandate, um, saying that it's unconstitutional. They couldn't like force people to get the vaccine. But as far as I know, it's still up to private businesses. They can turn people away, and I think that's fair. But grocery stores, some places are exempt in Chicago. Grocery stores, and I forgot churches, schools. Um, we can still go freely whether you're vaccinated or not. So that's good. It's because we don't want to go too far with this vaccine mandate. So it should be a personal choice. Me, I'm not vaccinated. I haven't taken the first vaccine, the second one, I've taken the booster. I haven't taken any vaccine related to COVID-19 whatsoever. And I have religious and health reasons for that. So I'm not just saying, I'm not just saying I'm not getting vaccinated because it's my choice. It is my choice, but I have a very good reason for it. Number one, I heard that these vaccines have um, parts from a fetus in it, and that's what they use, these fetus parts to make the vaccine. So if I were to get injected with that, that would be injected into my body, and I don't want that in my body at all. I have a moral objection to that. I have a religious objection to that as a Christian. Um, so yeah, that's one reason. That's the main reason why I'm not taking it. But equally as important is the health reason. This vaccine was rushed. It was made in a year or so, and um, there were just like, I believe there's a lot of safety regulations that the FDA just expedited and really didn't make sure it was like 100% safe before they said approved it for the public to take. Not to say that they just completely bypassed all the safety procedures. They didn't, but I believe like it was rushed, and I understood the urgency. Um, but yes, I don't feel comfortable or safe taking or putting something in my body that was rushed to make, and so there's a health and safety concern there. Those are the two main reasons, and actually, those are the only two reasons why I refuse to take the COVID-19 vaccine or booster. And that's my choice. So if I'm elected Chicago mayor, I'm not going to force Chicagoans to take it and say, you guys, you guys need to take that. Then I'd be being a hypocrite because I'm not taking it. Why would I say everybody else needs to take it? If I'm not taking it because of personal choice, then I believe everybody else should have that personal choice too, to refuse it or to take it. They take it, fine. If they don't take it, then they shouldn't be punished for that. Um, so yeah, that's my stance. And so I wanted to go back to education. because with the protests and with the strikes because of the mask mandate, I've I'm feel more strongly toward the vaccine mandate than the mask mandate. If masks were required for me to go into school, then I would go into school. I wouldn't be standing outside in the freezing cold when I could be in my nice warm classroom getting an education just because I have to wear something over my face. That's not hurting me whatsoever. And that's what these students are doing. And I just believe that we don't take education as seriously in this country, or definitely in the city, as people should. And um, that's why there's this achievement gap. That's why um, test scores are so low. That's why students are falling behind, um, because there's just not like an importance or a value in education in young people. Because if there was, then they wouldn't let something like a face mask stop them from getting an education, which is more important above anything. Um, if I were the parent of one of these students, I would tell them, you need to get to class. You can't skip out in class. And actually, there was a news report where one of the students actually admitted to using the protest and the mandate as an excuse to get a free day, like skip out on class. So these protests, they shouldn't be considered an excused absence. It should be considered ditching class. Because here's the thing, this they are expressing their First Amendment right to free speech. But the thing is, if this was so important to these students, if it was so important to these teachers, and by the way, the teachers are also protesting against class sizes and things that they've always been protesting, which is legitimate. Um, but they had time to do this way before the school year started. They've been doing this like they should have did this last winter when school ended, not right now when it's disrupting the education process. They wait until the the semester starts, and I believe it's because they just don't want to go to class. Because if they did, they wouldn't be pulling this nonsense right now. Um, but they are. So I don't know if the protests have stopped, but um, I haven't seen anything where students are resuming their classes. Some schools closed and they had an emergency day because they weren't sure which way it was going to go with this mask mandate. So they just closed their schools, so that was even more time off from schools. So it's just ridiculous. That's why our education system is so broken. You have kids who are their age across the globe in third world countries were literally dying to get the education that we have here that we take for granted for free. And kids who are walking miles and miles in extreme conditions to get to school, because they don't have the luxury of public transportation like we do. Um, just going through all sorts of stuff that we don't go through here, just to be able to go to school so they can live a better life, and helps living a better life like the life we take here for granted. So yeah, that's what I have to say about these protests. Um, well, let me see. We're almost reaching half an hour with this video. So let me just make sure. I think that covered mostly everything. So yeah, I did. I have covered everything in this video. So um, yeah, that's what I have to say about what's been going on with the pandemic and particularly the mask and vaccine mandates. And if I'm elected Chicago mayor, Uh, what I'm going to be focusing on is making sure that people's constitutional rights are respected as it pertains to this vaccine. I'm not so worried about the mask mandate. Um, it doesn't really hurt somebody to put on a mask, but we have to be very careful about what we put into our bodies. So I'm not saying that the vaccine is harmful. There are some adverse effects that I was also concerned about associated with this vaccine, but I'm not gonna go out there and start saying don't take the vaccine, it's gonna kill you, because that's not true. But um, I'm not also going to start saying let's violate people's civil rights, get them to take the vaccine no matter what. I'm not going to do that. So that's the main thing. And I'm going to end the video here so it doesn't get any longer than it has to. And yeah, thanks for watching.